In the last video, we proved that Phaser is running, and we talked about how the game loop works. In this video, we're going to put something on the screen for the first time. And more importantly, we're going to answer one of the most confusing questions for beginners. Where does stuff actually appear and why? If you ever added a sprite or image and thought, why is this off screen, or why isn't this centered, this video is for you. Let's start simple. In Phaser, an image is just a game object that we're rendering to our screen at a given position. This type of game object allows us to take an external texture and display it in our game. Another version of our image game object is the sprite game object. So the main difference between our image and our sprite game objects is our sprite game object can play animations. Our image will be static, and neither of these have any physics. They're just an image with an X and Y value, and one of them can play animations. If you understand how the X and Y values work, everything else becomes much easier. Before we can use images or sprite sheets in your game, we need to tell Phaser to load that asset. How this typically works is in one of your Phaser scenes, in the preload method, we want to use our Phaser loader plugin to load in our different assets. So in our preload scene, we're calling this.load.image, and we're providing a unique key for that asset we're loading and the path to where that file is located. How our code is currently set up is we have our assets in this array here, and for each asset, we have a unique key and where that file can be found so Phaser can load it. So we have assets, images, and then our background PNG, and then our jar PNG. And so in our preload method, we can also tell Phaser to load other asset types. Besides our images, we can tell Phaser to load in our other file types. So this includes our sprite sheets, our texture atlases, audio, video, and much more. And so when we call one of these methods, our key, this is our unique key, which is a name for where this asset will be placed in our cache. We use that name when we want to create that game object so that way Phaser knows which image or asset to use for the game object we're creating. Now by loading all of our assets in our preload method, this tells Phaser we don't want to start our game until all of these assets have been loaded. Once Phaser has loaded in those assets and they're available to use, then we go into our create method. So once we hit our create method, this is where we can create those game objects. So in our starting project template, we're already adding an image game object to our game, and this is our background image. To add our image, we need to specify our X, our Y, and which texture we want to use. So our texture, this is our key that we used when we called this.load.image. And we need these to match, so Phaser will use the right texture. As an example, if I change this to a string that doesn't exist in our cache, now Phaser displays a broken image. Since we loaded in our background image with the key of background, now Phaser knows to display that image for that game object. When we want to create a sprite, we do the same thing. We specify our X and Y, which texture we want to use, and then if we're using a sprite sheet, we can specify our frame. And we'll get more into sprite sheets later, but for now, if we omit our frame, Phaser will default to using our first frame. Now for placing our game objects in our game, we have to specify our X and Y values. And this is where the confusion usually starts. So let's slow this down. So in Phaser, and in most 2D games, our coordinate system will start in the top left-hand corner of our screen. So at this point, our X is set to 0 and our Y is set to 0. And so we have a 2D coordinate of 0, 0. Now as we move to the right, our X value is going to increase. So we start from 0, we go to 1, 2, and we keep increasing infinitely in this direction. So just as an example, if this was 500 pixels, we'd be at X 500. Now as we move down our screen, this will make our Y value increase. We start at 0, and then as we move down, we'll just keep increasing. So now, when I place a game object at 0, 0, I'm saying I want to be here in the top left-hand corner. If I place it at 0, 500, I keep my X at 0 and increment my Y to 500, and then if I wanted something like 100, 100, I would move over 100 pixels, down 100 pixels. And so this isn't just a Phaser thing, this is typically something we'd see in most game engines. And so one thing to keep in mind is for our 2D coordinate system, we don't stop at 0, 0, our game coordinates extend infinitely in both directions. What this means is when we move left past 0, we'll have a negative value, and if we move up past 0, we'll have a negative value for our Y. So to see an example of this in action, Come back to our code. I'm going to remove this code here for our background. I'm going to place in 0, 0. Now if we come back to our game, what happens is we only see part of our background. And here's another beginner trap. When you place an image at 0, 0, you might expect the sprite's top left to line up with our screen. But by default, Phaser positions your game objects by their origin or their center. So each game object that we create has a point that's called their origin. That origin is how Phaser positions our game objects in our game. So when I say I want to place my game object at 0, 0, we're placing our origin or our center at that location. And so for like our background image like this, when we go to position 0, 0, we only see our bottom right-hand corner of our image. So if we want to see our full image, we need to place our origin in the center of our game. So for our previous code, that's exactly what we were doing. This scale.width will give us how big our current game is, and we're dividing by 2 to get the center. And then we're doing the same thing for our height to get the center. That results in our image game object being centered in our game, and now we can see our full image. And so this is something important to understand, because anytime we want to place a game object in our game, we need to keep in mind where our origin is for that game object. Otherwise, we can have instances where our game object doesn't appear fully on our screen. And so now to manually move our game objects, all we need to do is update those x and y values. So if I take this image game object here and I change my x and y to be 50, now my game object is moved in my game. And this leads to one of the most important ideas in game development. Games are just numbers changing over time. Our position is a number, movement is numbers changing every frame, and if you understand that, movement, collisions, and gameplay stop feeling mysterious. So now before we wrap up, let's add in some game objects to represent our player and our objects that are going to fall that we'll need to catch. So if we come back to our project, under our assets folder under images, our jar PNG, this is going to be our player, where we're going to catch our falling objects. Then our sprite sheet, our PNG file, this has all the images representing the objects that will fall and we'll want to catch. So our project is already set up to load in all these assets. So in our preload scene, we're referencing our image assets array, and inside here, we have our image. And then for our texture atlas assets array, this has our sprite sheet, and we're telling Phaser to load these in. So now, once we get to our game scene, those assets are available, and that's how we're rendering out our background. So now we'll go ahead and add in our player. So for our player, we'll do our image game object. So we're going to do this.add.image. And now we want to center our image just like we do with our background. Instead of referencing this.scale.width, every time we want to do that, we'll make a new variable that we can use in our create method. Just do const. Let's do our width and our height. And we'll grab those from our scale manager. So now down here, we can just do our width divided by 2, and we'll do our height divided by 2. So now for our jar, we want to be centered, so we'll do our width divided by 2. And now we want our game object position at the bottom of our scene. So by doing our height, that's going to grab our full height of our scene, and then place our game object down here at the bottom. Now because of our origin, our game object will still be partially visible. Finally, for our texture, we're going to do our asset keys, and we want to do our jar object. So if we save, come back to our browser, we should see our new image added to our game. So I'm going to copy that line of code, and now we're going to do our falling object. So for our falling object, we'll center that in our screen, so we'll do our height divided by 2, and now we want to reference our objects on our asset key. So now if we save and come back to our browser, we're going to see our button game object show up in our game. So what's happening is when we tell Phaser to load in our sprite sheet here, because we didn't specify a frame, Phaser's going to take our first frame of our sprite sheet and render that out in our game. How this works is we have this JSON file here that has all of the frames for each of our images. This is instructions to tell Phaser how to cut up that image into multiple smaller images. And so, if we want to display a different image, we just need to pass in the name of the frame that we want to use. So if I copy this button2.png, come back to our game scene, we can pass in one more argument. This will be our frame. And if we come back to our browser, now we're displaying our second button. And now what's really cool is for any of these frames we have defined here, we can display our different image. If I grab a different frame, come over here, we'll paste it. Now we're displaying a different game object. So for the time being, I'm just going to do our first frame. If we go ahead and save and come back to our browser, we should see our button. So one last thing we'll do is for our game objects, our button's a little bit big. We can change the size of our game objects by using our scale property. How that works is we can call .setScale, and now we can provide a value for how much we want to scale our X and Y by. By default, these are both set to 1, which means we're going to render out our image at the original size that we load in. If I want to double my size, I can bump these both to be 2, and now my game object will be scaled up and is twice its size. If you only provide one value, Phaser will apply that to both our X and Y, but then you can also do stuff like this, where you only scale one of the properties. For scaling down, we can provide a value less than 1, now that's going to shrink our game object. Nice. In our next video, we're going to make our image game object move on its own. We'll use the update loop to change our numbers over time, and we'll build our first real piece of gameplay. When you're ready, move on to the next lesson, and let's keep building.